Today's Bible story is coming to you from Judges chapter 11. There was a man named Jephthah, and he was a mighty man of valor. He was a great warrior. Now Jephthah was at war with the children of Ammon, and we won't get into why because it's not pertinent to today's lesson. But he decided he needed some help to win a battle against them. And so he prayed to God, and he made God a vow. He said, God, if you will give me victory in this battle, when I return home, I will give you the first thing that comes out of the doors of my home, the first thing that comes to greet me. So God gives Jephthah the victory, and he heads home. And I'm sure that as he was heading home, he was expecting a servant to run and greet him, to maybe take his bags, his weapons, his armor, whatever he had, and get him settled back in his house. But it wasn't a servant that came to greet Jephthah. It was his one and only child, his daughter. And as soon as he sees her, he falls to the ground and he tears his clothes and is just in immediate anguish. And he tells his daughter about the vow that he made to God. Now, she would have to know what this meant for her, that it would mean likely a life of service in the temple, and she would never marry, and she would never have children. And you would think that she would be really angry, that she would yell and scream and say, how could you do this to me? But she doesn't. She said, Dad, you made this vow to God, and he kept up his end of the bargain, and now you need to keep yours. Just give me 2 months to go and mourn. She wanted to mourn the fact that she would always be a virgin, that she would never be a wife, and she would never be a mother. And so that's what she did. And then she came back and fulfilled her father's oath. She must have been a woman of very great faith. There's a few misconceptions about grief in today's world. One of them is that we tend to put grief in this little box that's reserved for the loss of our loved ones, either by death or just by separation. But we can grieve for so many different things. There are women who are barren, and they spend their lives grieving that they'll never have children of their own. There are people who get divorced, and they mourn the loss of a whole family. They mourn the brokenness. There are people who work for decades and then suddenly find themselves disabled and unable to support themselves or their families. Or some people simply lose their jobs and sit around wondering what they're going to do next. The list could go on and on. The other misconception is that as Christians, sometimes we feel like we don't have the right to grieve, that we can't, that because we have Jesus, that we should always be looking on the sunny side. But that's not true. We forget that God made us with many of his attributes, and one of those is the ability to grieve. Even God grieves. And it is through grief that we often find healing. The difference is that when we grieve with hope. We grieve with hope towards the future, knowing that God will bring us out of it, that he can use our pain for his glory, and that the sun will shine again. I leave you with this verse, Psalms chapter 30 and verse 5. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning. God bless you.